This episode of Horror Movie Talk is brought to you by patreon.com/horrormovietalk. On our Patreon, you can gain access to hours and hours of bonus content, including a whole other podcast where we just chat and have fun. You can also receive episodes early and ad-free. Sign up for the right tier, and you can even participate in voting on a movie we review every month. On top of all this, I've recently added a short story written by me that you can go check out, and above all, you'll receive our undying love and gratitude as you help us to create the content we enjoy. From the highest paying tier down to the $2 a month tier, we are so grateful for all our patrons who sacrifice any amount of money to keep the show running.
Is this a metal thing? Yes. Taste.
David, what is this?
Pretty thick.
Break.
I have to kill a lot of people. Just tell me what you want me to fuck.
I have big tits and a tiny vagina.
Oil me up, Daddy. I can't believe that Bryce prefers big tits. Mistletoe alert. This is backcountry.
This guy was a real jerk.
How long can Ugo be pregnant? Chomp, 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 chomp.
Oh, you're such a dick, David.
Okay, everybody, put on your corpse handling gloves.
Ew.
Hoodie Picasso. Horror.
Hello, and welcome to Horror Movie Talk. My name is Max Allen, and I am speaking to you now for the first time as a 25-year-old man. That's right. I had a birthday this last week, and for the first time in my life, I've started contemplating my own death as I realize that I am likely already 1/3 of the way done with my life. With me is the wonderful Sydney Lee with a brand new haircut, and Bryce Hansen, who puts the wind in my sails and a smile on my face. Friends, we're going back to our roots and reviewing exclusively horror movies. New theatrical releases always get priority, but we also review older horror movies, both good and horrible. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. Full videos available on YouTube. Don't be a square. Make sure you share that. Also check out patreon.com/horrormovietalk, the equivalent of the adult section at your video rental store. If you want to add your P to the community pool, go to horrormovietalk.com or call 682-253-4468 and leave us a voicemail. Guys, we have a wonderful show for you today. We are reviewing Suspiria from 1977, the original. We'll start out by giving a brief review and our score of the movie. We score on a scale of 1 to 10. After we give our score, we'll get into spoilers and take a deeper dive into what we liked and hated about the film. Later on, we will be playing a... I'm wondering how much I should say about this game. So,
I mean, you got to say the title at least. I mean,
well, give me a second. Let me explain why I did this. So, a lot of people have been asking for us to bring back horror or porno. People, when I was live streaming, were asking for it. I see the comments. People want horror or porno. And I've tried to explain myself. I've told them, you know what? I don't know if I want to dig through porn for this show. Don't know if it's worth it to me. But, you know, people keep asking for it. So
it's
you gotta
disgusting, it's shameful, it's sinful, and it's cheating on your wife. And your grandmother is looking at you from heaven, and she's disappointed.
Well, both my grandmothers are alive, but
I have some terrible news, Max. I was going to talk about this before the show, but I thought it might be more interesting. But your grandma's dead. Both of them, actually. Both of your grandmas died.
Both of them?
Yeah.
Were they in a car together?
Yes.
They were in a car together.
They had a head-on collision with a bus.
Oh. Gosh.
Don't worry though. The bus is okay.
The bus is okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was unharmed. Your grandmas were very, very frail.
No, they are frail. I know that about them. But
just
yeah,
like if you took, when you throw the used chicken bones in the KFC bucket,
I know.
That's about what the inside of the car looked like.
Oh,
Wow.
my
Just
God. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They got hit so hard that they shattered into bones.
Yes. So So that's why Max
This is
doesn't like watching
devastating
porn,
news.
because it's disappointing to both his grandmas.
Both my grandmas, who are now dead.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But listen, we got to give the people what they want. We have to deliver. And I've decided to change it up a little bit, put my own spin on it so that I can feel more comfortable. So today we will be playing a game called Horror or DiGiorno, where Bryce and Sydney will be viewing blurred images of either a horror movie poster or a DiGiorno Pizzas ad. And they will have to be guessing which one is a horror movie and which one is a DiGiorno's pizza ad.
Bravo.
That's fucking awesome. I can't
This is
wait.
the kind of content we need on the podcast.
This is going to be good. I see why you set this up.
Yes, I've been
the whole week. You were like, I've been
do
texting awesome
them
game.
all week about this amazing idea that I had.
And you've delivered, much like not DiGiorno, because it's not delivered.
That's an
it's not
essential
delivered.
part of horror movie talk. Being a horror movie talk host is being very, very, very excited about your bits and your ads, and getting lukewarm reactions from your co-hosts.
Yeah.
It'll never live up to your expectations, but the
You know what?
self-satisfaction
I
is strong.
am riding a high just even saying horror or DiGiorno on the show. So
I gotta admit, it's pretty good. It's a quality idea. So, and this
All right.
episode, I just want to say to the fans, comes with 50% more mouth breathing and swallowing sounds from me, because I know that you guys have been loving it and expressed how much you appreciate hearing me in the background all the time, having fat man breathing. And I just want to bring the fans what they want. So I'm gonna bring it this episode.
And if you guys,
yeah, they really do.
If you up your Patreon, if you go to the next tier, I will also start breathing heavily and swallowing. And then you go up the next tier, and Max will do it. So it's really up
And
to you
if you
guys.
go to the highest tier, I will edit out all the breathing. That sounds a lot like one of the
Horror
characters from this
porno?
movie, actually.
Okay.
Well, before we go any further, Sydney, do you want to walk us through this haircut that you got? It's very different.
Sure.
Are we bringing back the trans bit?
My identity is not a joke, Bryce.
Sorry.
Oh Jesus. No, I've been thinking about cutting my hair for a long time, and I finally did it, and it felt good. But though I've never had my hair this short. I've always had hair like over my ears, and it's shaved over my ears now. My ears are so cold. You guys just deal with this all the time. I'm like, I need to wear a hat everywhere now. Like I did before, but like there's nothing covering my ears. They get so red and cold in this winter. But yeah, I don't know. I told myself I would never get a mullet, and this is kind of like a mullet, like in a little bit. So here I am with my new haircut.
Yeah, I mean, you're just learning how hard it is to be a man.
Yeah, it's really. I
That's what I was
understand
thinking.
the struggle of.
The struggle is real.
The struggle of men.
Cold
the plight.
earlobes,
cold ears.
as well as the draft sometimes.
The draft.
The draft.
Yeah, the draft. The draft against my ears.
The draft,
and the
on your ears. Yeah, that's what I was referring
That's
to.
exactly what it is. But yeah, just I wanted to change, and now I have new hair. And I didn't dye it,
it
contrary
looks
to
incredible.
popular belief. Thank you.
Yeah, it suits you. It looks good. I didn't mean to make fun.
No,
You do not look like a man.
thanks. But maybe I want to.
All right.
Max. Okay.
When Sydney,
I don't
whenever
really
you're-
know how to win here.
Sydney, whenever you're comfortable, I mean, if you need support in any way, we're here. We love you. We accept you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
reach out to David. He knows a lot about this subject.
You're right. Yeah. The resident
he transitioned
trans.
and then transitioned back.
He's so crazy for that.
All right, guys, let's get into Suspiria. Suspiria can be found on Tubi for free. Suspiria is a movie about a young American woman named Suzie who relocates to Germany to join a prestigious dance academy. As Suzie begins to adjust to her new life, she stumbles into a world of conspiracy which seems to surround her school and dance instructors. People start to go missing while Suzie and her friend Sara attempt to put the pieces together. When the school staff starts to show their true colors, Suzie must investigate the history of the academy before whoever is murdering the dancers makes her the next target. In the end, they all get more Suspiria than they bargained for. My review of Suspiria is directed by Dario Argento and stars Jessica Harper as Suzie. The movie, now considered a horror classic, uses unconventional lighting and color, which gives the movie a unique feeling and adds to the suspenseful atmosphere. The dialogue is kind of goofy at times, but to me that is part of the charm. My problem with Suspiria is that the runtime is only an hour and 40 minutes, but it somehow feels like a 2-hour plus movie. The scenes drag on, probably to linger on the beautiful designed shots, and the plot is minimal compared to the 2018 remake, which expands on and adds ideas to the original. However, I say all this just for the sake of being a little critical. I actually really do enjoy this movie, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, it's a completely different thing than... I mean, the remake is a completely different thing. Like, it was really interesting watching it, because this is the first time I've seen the original. And we did a review for Suspiria back when it came out. What was that, 2018?
2018.
So, yeah, there's... In terms of, like, plot and stuff going on, there's way less in this movie compared to the remake. But it... is a, as the kids say, a vibe. It's really interesting in terms of like building suspense and just being kind of wacky with delivering on that suspense. It's enjoyable. I got a little bored with it, like with these types of movies where it's like the dialogue's a little too on the nose. There's kind of any time when it's not trying to build suspense or kill someone, it's a pretty boring movie and nothing actually interesting really happens. And like the mystery that the movie purports to be, you know, hiding until the end is just kind of feels a little tacked on. But I can see why it's considered just a great horror movie or a thriller, so I'd still say it's definitely worth a watch, but I'd give it like a 7 out of 10.
Sorry I was moving around while you were talking. I was listening to you, but I why didn't I think of this before? Look at this lighting. I have Suspiria lighting now.
I know, I'm doing the same thing right now. Oh, that didn't really do anything. Wow. I put purple, but whatever. But but yeah, I agree with both of your criticisms about it. This is the second time I've seen this. I actually tried to watch it in high school, and I got bored like really like probably like 10 or 15 minutes into it, so I was like eh. And then I actually watched it in college, and when I watched it then, I was like, this seems like it's like 2.5 hours long, but it's not. And then I was like, maybe I'll have a different reaction when I watched it the other day for this. And nope, it still felt exactly the same. But yeah, I think it's a beautiful movie. I think that stylistically it's great. I love Dario Argento. I think he's a great director. Like Tenebrae is a great movie. We should do that at some point. I really love that one. But yeah, there's goofy stuff in it. There's stuff that definitely makes you laugh that's probably not trying to make you laugh. But Yeah, overall, it's like entertaining. It's gorgeous. The colors, the lighting, the set dressing, and everything is great. And I think that is what the movie has going for it. It doesn't really have much of a plot. It's just kind of like, it's so scary. What's going on, guys? And then you don't really know. But I went back and forth about my score for a while, but I'll do 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think like the thing about this movie and movies like it is it's more of a vibe or more of a visceral experience than trying to sit and, you know, understand a plot or it's not about the story necessarily. It's about the feel. And so the one thing that it has going for it really well, that if you want to study this movie and reuse some of the concepts, like as far as replicating a dream feel and a dream logic, like it does a really good job, because like some of these scenes, especially the suspense scenes, are just replicate the feeling of being in a dream, running away from danger. And it's like you're just so feeble and incompetent, and like nothing makes sense in your environment. You're like, I don't know, there's some suitcases. I guess I'll stack the suitcases and climb out that little tiny window. Like, and like they're trying to open the door, but they can't. So I gotta get out before they open the door. And then like the time frame is jacked up, and then all of a sudden you're in a pit of razor wire.
Yeah,
that's just.
I wish I could have dreams like that again.
It's so dreamlike. It's like just so random and disjointed, and it like. There is a story, but it feels like it's the story in a dream where it's just being made up as you go along. So in that sense, it's really good.
Yeah, I do wish I could have nightmares like that again. Ever since my wife got pregnant, I only have nightmares about not being able to hold a baby. They're too slippery. They're falling down. It's like every week.
Do you have nightmares about missing or signing up for a credit in college and not going to class still?
No. I did like all my schooling online, so I think I had a very different experience.
That's definitely different. I had a nightmare last night that I was making everyone sandwiches and the cheese was expired and we all ate the cheese.
Oh no.
And I was like, fuck, and I woke up and I was like, what kind of, like, I have really bad nightmares. That was like nothing. I woke up and I was like, all right, like, I guess that was just a dream. Like, what the fuck? Expired cheese. Oh no.
My nightmares recently have just been these like really, really annoying stress dreams where it's like I'm dreaming about waking up and sitting in bed and thinking about work and how much time that I have to do the things that I need to do, and then I wake up again.
That's awful.
Like, God
oh my
damn it.
God.
That's like going to work that's like clocking into work when you go to sleep.
It is.
That's
it's
awful.
The fucking worst. Like waking up and staying in bed in a dream.
Yeah.
is the worst.
No rest.
I had a nightmare just last night where we had our baby, which isn't born yet, and my wife was like trying to like flatten her hair because it was like sticking up, but she was pressing too hard and I could hear the squishing noises, and I was like, stop that. And then I tried to grab the baby, but the baby's head is going like this, and it's horrible.
I will tell you, holding a newborn baby is really nerve-wracking because I have a sister who's about to be 2, and when she was born, I saw her like 10 or 14 days after she was born, so she was tiny, and everyone was like, hold her, and I was like, this is like, I don't know what this thing is, and I was so terrified. I was like, someone take her, I'm gonna like drop her on the floor, I'm gonna like break her neck, I don't know what to do right now. It honestly is pretty scary, but you'll get used to it.
Well, thank you for confirming my fears of being a father. I appreciate that.
I'm sorry, but it's just, they're so delicate, and you're gonna be totally fine. They're really not like that delicate, but
This is Max in his dreams, except just replace the limes with babies.
This is the same picture you showed last time I brought this up. I can't I hold all this baby?
You're gonna be fine.
Thank you. Back to the movie though. When we were talking about the scenes dragging on, like there's this one scene where they're like swimming in a pool and talking, and then they just stop talking and they swim for like a minute and a half with no talking. And I was just like, why is this in the movie? Why keep this? And characters who have no screen time for some reason later on get like a 10-minute death scene. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it all adds to the effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I do enjoy the movie, so I'm just trying to poke a little bit of holes so I don't have to give it a 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, if you're listening to these commercials, you should know that you don't have to. Guys, come on, this is like the third time I'm bringing it up this episode. Go to our Patreon and sign up for whatever tier you can afford and give us your money. I need it more than you do. You can also go over to the Horror Movie Talk shop and get lots of cool stuff. We got hoodies, we got shirts, we got other things, stickers. Make sure to check out our resident artist, Dustin Goebel, a professional artist who fucks hard. He also takes commissions for artwork from HMT fans. Contact him on Instagram at DGOEBEL00 and make your artistic dreams come true. Tell him HMT sent you. Again, that number is 682-253-4468. Thanks again for listening, and let's get into these Suspiria spoilers. Alright, so this movie starts out with Suzie arriving in the airport in Germany. She's on her way to the dance academy, which she's been accepted into, and it is just raining super hard. She gets into a taxi, can barely figure out how to talk to the taxi driver, and eventually she's driven to the big school where most of the dancers live, but she's denied entry. They won't let her in. And she also sees another student kind of like running out, like in a frenzy. She is like leaving and speaking nonsense, and she's running out into the rain, which is a very odd thing for her to see on her first night.
Yeah, and about this whole scene, like Suzie gets denied and she goes back in the cab, and then she comes back in the morning with no bags. And where was she? Like, where was she all night? That was my first question of the movie, was like, where did she go? Did she just go back to the airport? Did she like go to a hotel? Like, that was never explained. She just like shows up in like, I don't know.
Well, something I like about her character is it's not really talked about very much, but I kind of just inferred this, is that she really wants to be independent. She wants to be on her own. She is making a huge change going from America to Germany to study dance, and it's talked about later where they're talking about what they're going to do when they graduate, and she's like, I don't really know. I'm just going to go back to the States probably. So she doesn't really have a plan, but she knows that she wants to go out into the world and do something on her own. And one thing that keeps reoccurring in this movie is the teachers at the dance academy are so weird about living situations. Like, they do not want her living on her own. They don't want her being out of their sight. And she's just kind of like, I would like to just go out and live on my own and come to school. But it's kind of, it becomes weirder and weirder with that. But at this point, it kind of seems like she just wanted to stay there for the night and was probably planning on getting her own place, I assume. Yeah,
they kind of definitely push her. They're like, it's fine if you don't stay here, but like most of the girls do. And I also, with the independence that you were talking about, I looked up a couple fun facts about this movie, and apparently Dario Argento wanted the dance academy to be girls 12 years old and under, but the studio was like, you can't do that because you're going to be like killing them and it's going to be really intense and that would be a lot. And he was like, okay, fine, I'll make it like 20. like around 20 years old and above, but he didn't change the script. So that I read that at the top of the movie. Like I went on the IMDb immediately when I started watching it, and I just kept that in mind throughout the whole movie. And so it's like, if the writing is a little bit childish, if they seem like they're being childish, then it's like, it's because the script was meant for 12-year-olds, which is a really weird point, honestly.
Yeah, it makes a little sense. The two scenes that come to mind are like when she's in the locker room and like the little bickering and like sticking the tongue out and name calling is one. And then, like, the one where, was it Suzie? Not Suzie. What's the other S name?
Sara.
Her friend, Sara. When Sarah's like, I counted the footsteps. And it's like, that seems like such a Goonies thing. Like, trying to figure out the mystery by, you know, looking at mundane details. And then, like, shocked that, like, I didn't even think about them not going towards the exit. It's like, oh, so you're a moron.
Yes. So you're a dum-dum. Okay. One thing we should mention is after Suzie leaves for the night because she isn't let in, we kind of cut to the girl who was running away from the school. Her name is Pat, and she goes to her friend's apartment, and she is like explaining, like, I just had to get out of there, like, you don't understand, they're crazy. And while she's like drying off her hair because it was raining super hard, she is attacked through a window by a man who was like watching her. And this death scene was pretty fun to watch, I think, because the stabs were very like gross sounding, and there's a part where like her chest cavity's ripped open and you see a beating heart and the knife just goes into the heart. It's pretty great.
Yeah, I think it's probably the best death in the movie. And it's the first, like, one of the first things you really see. And
you don't see anyone die for a while after that.
Yeah, it's bizarre too. And then she's like on the roof, on the glass on the roof, and her like head, like how her head goes through the back. Her head goes back and goes through the glass. It's just like, I don't know what they did to her face, but it was so creepy and weird looking. And then, yeah, it's a lot of moving parts in that death scene, and it worked out pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Another part of the death scene is like, yeah, she's thrown through that glass and hung, and the glass just like rains down on her friend and impales her, and so she dies too. So it's a pretty crazy scene, and I really like the color they use for the blood in this movie because it's like so bright red. It's like you're looking at cherries. It's a really interesting color.
Yeah, this is like the first, I think, Giallo movie that I've watched all the way through.
Oh, really?
So there's a lot of, from what I understand, there's a lot of conventions in these Italian Giallo movies, and one of them is like super bright blood. Lots of stabby action. I've heard that most of the time it's like leather gloved people that are doing it, but that wasn't the case here. But yeah, a lot of this first death scene is also the kind of the first instance of dream logic, where she's looking out the window and she's like, do I see something? Like, I feel weird about looking out the window and something's off, and then these yellow eyes appear just in the middle of nowhere, and then like a hairy arm breaks through the window and grabs her. It's very effective, and it's really cool. Like it's like something that you don't see, because they're just throwing stuff out there that makes you uncomfortable. You're like,
yeah,
pushing a girl's face up against the window, and while you're trying to murder her. It's like, oh no.
And
nice.
the next scene has some of my favorite lines in the whole movie. So she goes back to the school during the day, and they let her in, and she meets Madame Blank, who is like the head dance instructor. Is that what she is?
I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. Why not?
It's a little confusing.
There. Like,
yeah, so there's her, and she's like the boss, and then there's like a few other dance instructors, and then on top of her, we learn later there is like the founder, who never really shows her face, but she's supposedly
Elena
around.
Marcos is like the head mistress, and then there's Madame Blanc, and then I forget what the name of the other one that wears like the suit is. I don't remember her name, but Madame Blanc is very like jewelry, dresses, hair done, makeup done, and the other lady is like very militant, like teacher, kind of like Mrs. Trunchbull from the Matilda like kind of person. Yeah.
So the lines I like from this scene are when she is introducing Suzie to everyone, and she says, "Oh, and this is my nephew. I'm very attached to him." Which I don't know why I find that so funny, but it's just a goofy line.
Yeah, the dialogue in this is kind of like, it feels very early 50s kind of dialogue, very utilitarian. Yeah. It's like, this is what we do here, and this is where you're going to go, and this is the thing that's happening, and this person does this, and this person does this. This person's very ugly, isn't he? Okay, well, moving on. Yeah,
that's the other good one is, oh, this is Pablo. He's very ugly, isn't he? It's okay to say that. That's a great line. Yeah, the dialogue really is like, this is a person, this is how I'm related to this person, and this is how I feel about this person.
Yeah. I love that line of dialogue too, and she's like, he's very ugly. It's okay. He doesn't understand. He's Romanian. But you see in his eyes, he's like, bitch, I just don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys were noticing how sometimes the dialogue doesn't like line up with their mouths, or like it kind of seems like it's translated over, like the initial dialogue was like it was in like a different language. So they this is another one of the tropes of giallo, or even just Italian movies. Like you see this in spaghetti westerns too, is like they just do post recording. They do, sometimes they don't even bother to record the audio while they're shooting. They didn't in this movie. They didn't record any audio. They only used
any of it. Wow.
No audio at all. They did it all in post. Yeah, it kind of catches you off guard, because I watched this with my boyfriend, and he was like, this is bothering me so much, like, because I already knew this before I watched it, and I told him at the top of the movie, and he was like, this is really fucking bothering me, like, this better like be good, or I can't watch this movie because it's not lining up. It sounds like it's a different person. And then he ended up liking it, so it was fine. But it's kind of weird at the beginning, but you get used to it as you watch it, I think.
Yeah, it's like that technique, what it does is like it does create kind of an otherworldly experience, because everyone's voice is the exact same volume and feels like it's just detached from the scene, because like you don't hear the room at all. You don't hear like any reverb or anything off of the walls, or you can't hear any distance. If someone's sitting across the room from someone else, like you can't, it gives you no like sense of space with the audio when you record and post like that. But it is a different feel, and then you definitely like, and another reason they do that is they do play pretty fast and loose with like casting, where they're like, yeah, this person's German and this person's Italian, and they don't know English at all, but we'll just have them say their lines in German or Italian, and then like poke the other person to let them know when to talk. And then they just put their lines in English in post, and it's like, okay. So there are some instances where it's literally overdubbing a foreign language, but most of it is people talking in English overdubbed in English, which is weird.
It's an interesting strategy.
Yeah.
I kind of figured that they were just doing that for lines that maybe got messed up, like maybe the audio was messed up and they decided to re-record that one, because I didn't notice it throughout the whole movie. I just noticed it in a couple spots. But that's really interesting that they did it for the whole thing.
It is weird.
The next part that I wanted to talk about is in the locker room. Like you brought up before, the dialogue in the locker room is very odd. But what I thought was most interesting was how stingy all these dancers were. They're all trying to shake her down for money. And anytime they're being kind to her, they're really just trying to get money out of her. Like, she needs to borrow someone's shoes, and she's like, hey, is there anyone who can lend me some shoes for the day? And one's like, oh, yeah, of course. I would love to lend you my shoes. Do you want to buy them? And she's like, well, no, I have my own. I just didn't bring them today. And she's like, oh, I guess you can still borrow them, which...
Yeah,
great.
see, I didn't see it as stingy. I just thought it as like they're all looking for opportunities to make money. They're like very entrepreneurial ballet dancers. They're like, oh yeah, I can sell you these at a discount. Like I can use, you gotta stay liquid with the cash so you can buy, all your dancer things.
Yeah, what do dancers buy?
Ballet dancers, probably a lot of laxatives.
Jeez, Bryce.
I do know that I noticed that they were doing point. I did ballet for like 2 years when I was like a toddler.
Okay, go off, Queen.
I know, I'm so coordinated. But they were doing point, and when you need to buy like new point shoes like almost every week if you're a professional ballerina, because they get so fucked up because you're standing on them and you have to break them in, you have to like sew them yourself. Like there's like a whole I used to really look up to the point ballet dancers at the studio that I went to because I just thought it was so cool, and it's like so taxing on your body, and like those shoes are not cheap either, so I guess they're probably trying to save up to get like new leotards and new shoes and stuff. But I don't know. I also think in this scene they set up the character of Olga as like this kind of like hot mean girl, and then she gets like 2 scenes and she's gone. You don't see her for the rest of the movie. Like I thought she was going to be so important, and I forgot this about the first time I watched it, and I was like, wow, she's so interesting and cool. Maybe she'll be like in on the secrets of the dance studio, or she'll like help Suzie out. And it's like, nope, after, the next scene where Susie's like at her apartment for one night, she's just like, that's it. That's all you get from her.
You just don't see her. Apparently, in the trivia, it says that there was a scene cut from the end of the movie where Olga was in the show that all the students were at. Like, so when Suzie arrives at the end of the movie, and the school is basically abandoned because they're all got tickets to the ballet or something.
Yeah. And
so I think it was they're going to kind of imply that Olga was kind of a witch in training and getting the fame and power from being on that pathway. But yeah, they just abandoned that. There's a lot of like little offshoots and side characters that don't actually amount to anything and aren't tied up in a bow. They're just like, oh, okay. Like the cook that like shines the magic light interface is like,
oh right.
So what is she like? What's her like? Nothing's ever explained why they do the things they do. It's just like, oh yeah, weird shit's happening, and then you find out like, oh, it's a witch's coven. Well, that makes sense. Like, no, it doesn't. He didn't explain that at all. But sure.
As far as witches' covens go, they don't really do much witching around in this movie.
Not at all. Not at all.
That's one of my main questions about the movie is like, what are they trying to do? Because it looks like they're very, very focused on Suzie, because they're drugging her and like bewitching her. Are they trying to kill her and consume her or something? Or what's the motivation? Because like it's never super clear. They do, at the end obviously they're trying to kill her, but it's because she's making trouble. It's like, okay, well, if you left her alone,
right,
we're back.
Whoa.
Nothing happened.
We're back.
It's Max's turn this time to be the technical difficulties.
Yeah, but look how cool my video looks now.
Sure.
I made it even better. Next in the movie, Suzie has her first dance lesson, and she is feeling really sick, and she tells her teacher, like, hey, can I just sit down for like 5 minutes? I am not feeling good. And she's like, this is an easy dance. It's so easy. Just stand up and dance. And so she does, and she faints, and blood is coming out of her nose. And so she has this like really weird doctor come look at her, and I've never, like, could you imagine waking up from passing out and a doctor is just sticking needles in you and not even telling you what's in them? It's very bizarre.
Yeah, that was a weird scene. And then like later, I think Sara, who lives right next door to her, is like, oh, that was the doctor that came and saw you? And Susie's like, what about him? And Sarah's like doesn't say anything. It's just like, okay. But yeah, he's like, oh, you're just stressed. You're just trying to adjust, and you're hemorrhaging out of your nose. So you need to eat a bland diet for a week, and you can't move for the rest of the day. And I'm going to, like, give you a shot, like you said, of, like, what? I don't know. I don't know why she would need a shot if she got a nosebleed. And then the best part was, like, and we're prescribing you red wine every night with dinner because it will boost your blood. And it's like, okay, yeah, great. Perfect medicine. Love it.
That's actually exactly what I would want my doctor to tell me. Like, if they were going to force me to do anything, it's like a glass of red wine with every meal. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, like, oh, it's so funny. Just be drunk all day, whatever.
There's a couple, like, things from the previous scene and this scene that confuse me. Number one, like, what are they doing in that dance studio? Like, is that actually... It didn't seem like it was a choreographed dance. They're just kind of, like, flinging around and you know, there's no real instruction. So I was just like, all right, so they just all know how to dance in this dance that she's never heard of before? Okay, that's interesting. And then, yeah, in the scene where the doctor's there, he's like, oh, yeah, you know, you're just overstrained and, you know, you tore some tendons and that's where the hemorrhage happened. I'm like, how would, like, torn tendons or ligaments, like, make you bleed through your mouth and nose?
No.
Like, oh, yeah, it's you know, dance stuff.
I mean,
yeah, that doctor is questionable.
Yeah, with the dancing, that's what I appreciate about the new Suspiria, the remake, is that they actually do dance and you do see them dance, and there's obviously the really great body horror scene of like the girl dancing in the studio and like, you know, whatever. But yeah, for a movie about a dance studio, you really just see them, like, there are like two scenes where like people are like doing like pirouettes and shit, and it's like oh, okay, I guess this is a dance studio, but mostly it's just the girls in their rooms and like the little boy running around being creepy as fuck. Like, it's like, okay, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty... they must have hired actual dancers as the cast, because they were able to dance and they looked like ballet dancers, but you get the distinct impression that it was just Dario Argento just saying, okay, now dance. And they're like, okay, and they're just kind of walking around dancing. Yeah, and then like they early on that first scene when she's introduced, they're like, yeah, we don't really teach you how to dance. We expect you to already know that. We're just gonna like mold you. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like a dance academy should have some semblance of teaching you how to dance. I don't know.
Maybe a little.
So, am I the only one who finds male ballerinas just a little weird? I did not enjoy watching that hairy man with the hairy armpits dance around.
That's homophobic, actually. So,
well, I think it's actually homophobic of you to assume that man's gay.
You're right. I am homophobic, I guess.
I think you might have some things to work out, Max.
Yeah,
Did it make you feel funny feelings?
No, it made me feel gross. He's too
Did it
hairy.
Stir up emotions.
He's too hairy to be dancing that beautifully.
Yeah.
Forget horror or porno. We should do horror or male dancer.
Right.
No, that is one.
Yeah, I will
That's
say,
what I'm saying.
The guy's chest hair was distracting.
That's what I'm saying.
Because he does look like he's 14, and he has the chest of like a 50-year-old Greek sailor.
Look, that's all I was trying to say. Bryce,
Okay.
you actually get it.
I agree
You know,
with you.
I don't even really recall this. I think that's the problem, is that it didn't even affect me at all. So I guess you two might be thinking about men too much. You can deal with that in your own right.
Well, they're just distracting when there's all these beautiful women dancing and there's just this hairy man flinging around. I mean, he was a great dancer. He did great.
Yeah.
He did wonderful. So another development after she passes out is that she's forcibly moved into the school. They're like, oh, while you were asleep, we brought your bags from your apartment to the school so you can stay here. And she's like, well, I don't want to stay here, though. And they're like, well, it's for the best. It's fine. You know, everyone stays here anyways. So she's now living at the school. And that night, as they're getting ready for bed, maggots just start raining from the sky. And it's like they're getting in everyone's hair, in their food, like it's everywhere. And they learn that there was rotten food in the attic. Like they shipped food for the next week or so, and it came and sat in the attic, but it was rotten. And so maggots just infested it and were seeping through the floor down onto everybody, which is disgusting, number one, and caused them to have to relocate into the gym to sleep, so everyone's sleeping in the same room.
Yeah, I thought that was definitely interesting. Like when they move her into the school, they're like, Olga brought your bags and brought you back the rent you were paying her. She didn't touch a penny of it. And so Suzie kind of blames Olga and is like, oh, she was so quick to get rid of me and whatever. So again, it would have been nice to have that deleted scene of Olga being in on it, because that kind of sets it up a little bit. But also the maggots thing is weird. Food rotting in the attic is weird. It's maybe they're if it was a dead body, that would be I don't know, more effective, I guess. But also trivia for the maggots, they just threw rice on everyone to get the shot.
Well, I love how they blame the supplier. They're like, yeah, they just delivered all this rotten food to us. I'm number one, shouldn't you check your deliveries? Number two, shouldn't you put them in the fridge?
Yeah, why'd you put the food in the attic?
If it's expirable food, like organic matter, why would you put it in the attic? A lot of questionable decisions at this dance studio.
Well, something I don't understand about this scene is are the maggots and the rotting food, does it have anything to do with the fact that there's witches here, or is it just, oh, also we're not very good at keeping food good?
I mean,
I really wasn't sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's another one of these dream-like features where it's oh yeah, this just a thing happened. Maggots started falling from the ceiling, because that's just something that happens sometimes. And then the explanation for it is also very dream logic, which is oh yeah, there was just a bunch of expired food upstairs, so the entire surface of the attic was covered with maggots and they fell through the ceiling. Anyways, nothing else to see here, folks. Let's move on to the next scene. And
we'll have it taken care of in one day. It's fine.
Yeah, don't worry.
We don't have to redo an entire floor. So they're all put into a gym to sleep, and all the girls are there. And this is where we hear one of the girls talk about how the teachers don't stay there overnight. They leave around 9 p.m. or something. And so that's something that is important to remember for later, but for now they're all just going to sleep. And in the middle of the night, they hear this woman walk in and is sleeping behind the curtain and just has the most ragged breathing and is so loud and snoring and it's freaking everybody out. And one of them says, "Oh, that must be the headmistress. I heard her, and she sounded just like this last time I heard her."
Yeah, and I can't remember if it's this instance or if it's later. Like, do they get up and explore at this time, or do they wait? Like, is it just the talking? Is this when they swim in the pool?
I think they just go to bed after that.
Yeah, I mean, there's not... I don't remember them ever exploring together. I think it was just...
Oh, yeah, they definitely didn't.
Sarah goes exploring because Suzie fell asleep, and then she dies, and then Suzie at the end goes exploring.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, everything feels very, very detached. Like, okay, so this, head school person is sleeping and snoring next to us. It's like the girl makes it seem like it's very important and very odd. And like, so an old lady is sleeping next to you, and it's like, what's the mystery? What's like the danger or like spookiness of just like an old... Well, I mean, I guess I understand the spookiness of an old person sleeping and snoring close to you. That's one of my latent fears, but it's
ageist, but okay.
None of this is really connected until the very end, where it's like, okay, we learn who that old person is, and it is spooky, but at the time, it's like, yeah, it's just someone snoring. Like, go to sleep.
Well, I guess the one thing that would be creepy about it is, I guess Suzie doesn't know this at this point, but a lot of people do kind of know the rumor that the headmistress is a witch. Like, that's kind of a local rumor. So maybe that's why she felt like it was important to talk about it. Suzie doesn't learn that till later, so I don't know why she would be afraid.
Yeah, and I think, like, the main character being a person like Suzie is very strange to me, because throughout the movie it seems to me like Sara should be the main character, because she's the one pushing all the investigation and she knows all this backstory, and she's like, Pat, the girl who died in the beginning, was her friend, and she's trying to figure all this stuff out. And Suzie, like, really doesn't seem to give a shit until she can't find Sara. Like, that's like Susie's just like, Sara keeps telling her all this crazy shit, and Susie's like, okay, can we go to bed? Like, okay, like, but then we find out pretty soon after this that, like, Sara has like a note that Pat wrote, and she's trying to tell Suzie about it, and Suzie keeps falling asleep, and like, then they kind of put the pieces together that Susie's probably getting drugged by the food and the wine. But...
Yeah, I think Suzie, I mean, as the main character in the movie, the function is have her be innocent and preyed upon and feeble and weak. Like, that's like the whole kind of archetype, which is like, make her as small and frail and helpless as possible, and then have like all these things out of her control being thrust upon her, and then like, have her win in the end. But yeah, as far as like, it's kind of the same thing as what was that movie with Audrey Hepburn when she's playing the blind woman? We did it for
the blind woman.
Pretentious.
Is that the cats?
No.
Cat people?
No, it's not cat
Roman
people.
Holiday?
No, it's a horror movie.
I don't know.
Dark.
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
That's not a horror movie. I've only ever
debatable.
seen Breakfast at Tiffany's. I don't know.
Yeah, Wait Until Dark. Have you guys ever seen Wait Until Dark?
No.
It's pretty great. Like, she's just it's kind of a similar deal where it's Audrey Hepburn, so she's super tiny, like you feel like you could break her in half, like a pencil. And so she's like very, susceptible to harm. But also she's blind in the movie. So it's just another way that she's being preyed upon. And like a bunch of the plot of that movie is basically she's living in this apartment, and there's these men that sneak into her apartment unbeknownst to her, trying to find like a hidden like treasure. And like the suspense in the movie is like she's not aware, but she gets a weird feeling that people are around her, and you see them sneak around. So anyways, there's a lot of like kind of dramatic irony in both, and like having your main character be, you know, the one layer that they didn't add on, which apparently is what they wanted, was being a 12-year-old. Like that's the only extra layer of like, okay, how much more feeble and frail can we make this person? Like, oh, let's just put them in a 10-year-old body and mind, and like, yeah, that'll work.
Speaking of blind people, the pianist of the school is blind, and he has a dog that helps him around. And in the next scene, the dog apparently bites Madame Blanc's nephew, and so he gets fired. And his death scene is so long. I don't know. Did you guys feel this way too? Like, it shows him walking with his dog for like 2 minutes, and then his dog starts freaking out for like another 2 minutes. And it's just like, please, we didn't even get any backstory on this character other than he's blind, and we have to sit through this so super long death scene.
Yeah, like, why doesn't he bring the dog into the studio with him is like my first question. Like, why would he leave the dog outside? Like, this is his guide dog. I know he has the cane, but he brings the dog everywhere because that's like his guide dog, and you're like allowed, when you have a service dog, you're allowed to bring it anywhere. So that was number one, super confusing. And then I really do love the scene where he gets fired, though. It's so over the top and ridiculous. Like, they're screaming at each other. Like, he is so pissed. He's like, my dog would never do that, but it's like at the top of his lungs. And the dance teacher is like, but he did, so we have to, you're fired, you're ridiculous. And like, it is implied that it's like the cook lady and the nephew who looks so, he's like this the whole movie, like he's like and so it's implied that they provoke the dog, and you're like kind of led to believe that the boy and the cook are also like witches in a way. I don't know. But yeah, the death scene for the blind guy is like super long, but I do like how they cut his throat. I like that. When you see that, is that him?
Oh, you like cutting throats?
Or is that a different death scene?
That was Sara.
That was Sara. Okay, oops.
Yeah.
The dog attacks him. He
The
turns on
the
him.
dog
Man's
eats his
best friend
throat,
becomes
right.
man's worst enemy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the audio from the scene.
Sorry, there's a lot of throat stuff in this movie. So.
Then later the dog poops him out. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the scenes, like, that's one of the things, one of the main features of the movie we haven't talked about, which probably takes up about 25% of its effectiveness, is the music in it.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that.
By Goblin, and I guess Dario Argento is really involved in the process of making the soundtrack. The music was made before the movie was shot, and so it's
really?
a huge part. And so from like a filmmaking perspective, or just like a technique perspective, it's interesting as a viewer, because you're watching it and all of a sudden you feel very uncomfortable, and you're like, something's gonna happen. And it's like the same thing that it's not new, but it's weirdly effective. Of like, you'll just have these shots of like looking at the ceiling, or like looking at different parts, but since this driving soundtrack and these like kind of moaning music sounds are happening, you're like, oh shit, something's gonna happen. And so it's like leading you down this path, and that's kind of what this scene with the blind man's death was about. Just like, he's just looking around, there's nothing to see. Like, I didn't see anything like in the distance, or like in IMDb it said, in the synopsis it says like shadowy figures are moving around. Like, I didn't see shit. he's just looking at buildings and like panicking in the middle of this plaza, and the dog is barking at nothing, and he's like, what the fuck? And then most of the time what happens is like it's driving up to this moment, and then just nothing happens, and then the thing happens. So it's like,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's, if I'm remembering right, like nothing happens, the dog calms down, he's like, well, that was weird, and then the dog jumps on him and grabs his throat, and you're like, oh shit. And that's kind of like a through line where it's like, okay, so the first girl running away from the school, she's like in a friend's apartment, and she's like looks out the window and something's weird, and like, oh, I guess it's nothing. Nope, there's something. And then the guy getting eaten by the dog, and then the best one is Sara. We can skip ahead and just say, like, so they're trying to figure out where the teachers are going, because they figured out that they're not leaving the school at 9:30 every night. They're going somewhere, and Sarah's
they're going
trying to
to
track
the right, and the door is to the left, and they say that like 10 times.
Right. And so she tracks down, and then she's like, all of a sudden being chased by some killer with a razor blade, and she's in this room. I think I already mentioned it, but she's like stacking these suitcases to climb up to this window. She climbs to the window, and you're like, this whole thing is like a super suspenseful lead up, and you're like, is she gonna get away? And then she climbs to the window, and you're like, oh, okay, she's safe. Like, and then she takes another step, and then she's in a pit of razor wire. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ.
It's so unbelievable. It plays into like the dream-like setting of this movie, because it's like, why the fuck do they have a room full of barbed wire? Why wouldn't she look before she stepped down? Because she could have, like, possibly with the boxes in the room, like, threw them across to get to the other window on the other side. There was area in the room that wasn't filled with barbed wire, but no, she fucking climbs through it, and it's a really, like, harrowing scene where she's
really
like trying to get
plunge
out.
into it.
It's like the what is it, Saw 2, when she when Amanda's pushed into the pit of needles.
Ooh, why would you remind me of that scene? Ew.
Because that's what my boyfriend said when the scene happened. He was like, it's like Saw. And I was like, oh my God.
That is the most uncomfortable I've ever been watching a Saw movie. Those needles is so disgusting.
So awful. Oof.
So, I mean, in those scenes, like, I think it's effective, and that's like where the secret sauce of the movie, because that's where it's actually entertaining, and you're engaged, and it's pretty cool. And like, the music is cool, and like everything combined is pretty sleek, and it's hard to explain or pin down why it's so engaging, but it is. It's just all the other stuff is, the movie part. the part outside of those scenes is like, feels tacked on and arbitrary and kind of lazy. But yeah, the effect of those suspense scenes and the death scenes are really good.
Yeah, so the next day, Suzie wakes up and everyone's like, oh, Sarah's gone. She left, and she's like, that doesn't make any sense at all. So she tracks down Sarah's doctor, or her psychiatrist or whatever, and it's pretty much just like exposition dump at this point, where they're like, oh, the story is that a witch founded that school, and that the witch, it created a witch coven, and that's the story. But something I found interesting about this conversation, which I thought they were going to bring up later, but they never do, is one of the doctors is talking about how, like, the only way magic can have power over you is if you believe in it. And if you are skeptical and you doubt, then you're fine. Then things turn out to be normal, which I thought could have been like a interesting way for the movie to end, where like she doesn't allow the witches to have power over her, but it really never comes up, and it's never used again.
Nope. And that's the beauty of this movie, is that the plot isn't there. But yeah, I also this is kind of where the movie lost me at this point. Like, I really do like this movie. We have all mentioned how the plot is just really loose. But it's like, if Suzie could get out of the school and do this, why didn't she just leave forever? Because if Sarah's missing, Sarah's probably long gone. And like, you already think that something weird is happening in this school. So if you're allowed to leave, like, it's kind of set up like they're not allowed to leave. And if you're allowed to leave and go talk to these psychiatrists and like Sarah's like friend and all this shit, like, why didn't you just go home? Like, she could have just went home at this point. I guess we wouldn't have an ending, but like, she would have been safer, I think. Like, it's kind of weird.
She was curious.
To me. Yeah. Guess so.
Well, again, it's the dream logic. It's
right.
You're not supposed to act logically in a dream. You're like just compelled to do the thing that's going to put you more in danger. It's like,
right.
Yeah.
Just jump into the pit of razor wire. Like, that makes sense.
Yeah, why not?
Well, you have to escape. There's only one way to escape: the razor wire. So she goes back to the school at night, and everyone is gone. Like we talked about earlier, they all went to a ballet, and so she's alone in this big school. And a bat attacks her. She like has to fight off a singular bat that is like pestering her, which I thought was funny. Also, I would be terrified if a bat was coming after me, because I don't want rabies.
Yeah,
I don't know.
100%.
Like, bats are like a symbol of horror. Like, on Halloween, people put up lots of bats. The only thing that scares me about a bat is rabies. I don't know if that's how you guys feel about bats, but
I don't want COVID-19.
Well, any disease, I guess. I don't know.
I don't want any of their
kind
bat
of like
viruses.
Rats, where like rats don't scare me, but I'm afraid that they're carrying a disease that will kill me.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't want to get bitten.
No.
But
so she realizes that she's being drugged, so she dumps her wine down the sink, which is so, like, I've never seen wine look like that. Obviously, it's fake.
Like a wine
it was
like
yeah, it was so bright red, and she's like mixing it around and getting it all over her hands, and it's an interesting spectacle, but it's just odd to think about, I guess.
It's like they added corn syrup to her wine,
Yeah.
and she didn't notice it until she was trying to rinse it down.
it's like,
Yeah, and it looks thick too. It really does look syrupy.
Yeah. She
and
just
then,
never noticed it when she was drinking it, that she was literally drinking syrup.
Yeah. And something I love about this scene is she's sitting there thinking, and like she's like turning the cogs in the brain, and it just like plays audio from before of her saying, it's like her own voice being like, they're going to the right, but the door's to the left. And it's just funny for your own voice to come back and remind you of the thing you already learned to help you on. It's like, that's not necessary. We know she knows that. You could have just moved on, but she starts counting their footsteps so that she can follow where they're going, and she ends up in a secret room, and this is kind of where it ties back to the beginning, where Pat was saying nonsense when she was leaving, but really she was talking about how to get through the secret passage. So using those clues, she's able to move past that room into like a more secret like lair area for witches. And I love this scene because she walks in and she's like kind of hiding, and she can hear all the teachers in a room, and the teachers are just like, oh, I hate that girl. She's so stupid. I hate her. She needs to die. So that's just like, imagine walking into a place you're not supposed to be and everyone's just talking shit about you. It's so funny.
This is like, it makes sense. This is the 12-year-old girl's fear. Like, this is what every 12-year-old girl fears.
Everyone hates me.
Yeah, everyone hates you. Everyone wishes you were dead, and they're talking about you behind your back. Like, that teacher's lounge? They're just talking about how much they hate you. Like, I knew it.
Yeah, and it's like also really funny when she like remembers what Pat was saying, because it happens a couple times throughout the movie, is that she just like gets these flashes of like more and more of what Pat says, and I don't know how you remember over time what someone was screaming in the rain when it was really like, but it's also
she
the
remembers
dream
more,
logic.
not less with time.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
And so it was like her and the blue iris or purple iris or something, and like, yeah. So she finds everyone's talking shit about her, and she then finds another room, or is it the room that she's in? I don't know. It's
Well,
like
first she stumbles upon Sarah's body, which looks horrifying.
It's like ritualistic, like on like a bed.
Yeah, and so
or
because
something.
she's so scared that she saw her friend's body, she kind of stumbles, into a new room where she sees the headmistress laying and breathing her ragged breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And this scene is a little odd to me because the witch is just so goofy. Like, she's like, "You're trying to kill me? You can't kill me. No one can kill me. If you try to kill me, I'll kill you." And that's like kind of how she sounds and how the dialogue goes. And the dead body of her friend like attacks her, and it ends with her stabbing the headmistress, which makes the whole coven fall apart and the building starts collapsing. And that's kind of just how it ends. She runs out of the building as it's like catching fire and exploding.
You missed the part about how the headmistress was invisible for some reason.
Yeah.
And then
I
she
thought
caught
it
her
was
outline
cool.
in the lightning. It was cool. Like it's like a weird magic thing, but
Yeah, I think it was the most effective like scene for me. Like when she's like, the headmistress is like, hell is behind that door, and then she opens the door and it's her like living dead friend who's trying to kill her, and then she realizes with the flashes of lightning she can see the outline of the headmistress, so she stabs her, and then she's like this gangly old like rotting woman. And I think this was like one of the most effective scenes for me. I mean, all the death scenes are like amazing, but like I was like, okay, if we're gonna be boring and make no sense for a lot of this, and like like really like it drags for like a lot of the third act, like it's just dragging and dragging and dragging, and then for this to be a culmination of everything, I think it worked really well. And yeah, Suzie survives, which is cool. Good for her. And the rest of the school, all the kids survived too. Were like,
because they were all gone.
Yeah, so
I didn't think about that.
Well, they're not kids. I'm just thinking of that they are. They're not children.
I also really like that they gave the headmistress a traditional witch design where she has like green skin, and she looks like you'd imagine like a cartoon witch to be, which I think is cool. If the rest of the witches look like normal, but like the oldest witch looks very traditional.
It does kind of suck though. Like it, in horror movies, they really do portray witches as these like disgusting, decrepit, like old women who are mean and they want to kill you. And like, if you think of like people that practice Wicca in like the year of 2024, like it's just some like regular old person that's like walking down the street. It's kind of I don't know, is it misogynistic? Kind of, but I don't know. That's my 2 cents about it. Like even in the movie The Witch, which is like amazing, and I give that movie a 10 out of 10 every time, like it's either she's like super hot or she's like really gross and disgusting, and it's like, can women not just be regular? Like, can they just be regular sometimes? No. Oh, nope.
Nope.
Never.
Well, we have to fit women somewhere on a scale of 1 to 10. I mean, you can't just give them all a 5. No, I'm kidding. That is not how I view women. Everyone, that was a joke.
Yeah.
So, who would like this movie?
I think like if you like stylistic movies, if you like movies that are going to like give you something visually more than like plot wise, then like I think this is a horror staple, honestly. Like, and if you're trying to get into giallo movies, like this is a good entry into it. And Dario Argento is an incredible director. He really knows how to make a captivating image. So I don't know, stylistic movies, fun visual movies, people that like that.
Yeah, if you like kind of the more visceral, dreamlike stuff, or if you just like people getting stabbed a lot, this is pretty good. Yeah, it's kind of if you want to watch more foreign horror, this is definitely a great example of Italian giallo. It's taken me a while to get to it. Like it's like been of interest, but it's just not my bag necessarily. So I'm glad that the patrons voted to get us to watch it. Because
was this your first time watching it?
Yep.
Oh wow, yeah, that is interesting. I think that this is a classic, and so if you like horror, you should probably see it at some point. And the good parts are great. The bad parts are like so bad that they're great. So I think that it's all around a really good movie.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's jump into our game, Horror or DiGiorno.
I'm so excited.
I need to quickly figure out how to get on the right screen here. Hold on.
Here, I'll play the theme song.
Night when the moon is high, I walk the streets where danger resides. I chillin' waiting low for the city tonight. I hope I unfold that and give you a fright. Real things on the walls, bodies on the floor. This ain't no movie, it's a real hard floor. Gotta watch your back, gotta stay alert. In the street, the horror with the demons. Horror rap. So we bring people through the night. It's a terrifying thing, yeah. Ain't no guy going on, we ain't playing things. Just a 90 days to rap. And we running things.
This ain't no DiGiorno's here. It's supposed to be DiGiorno's.
Okay, so if I'm on this screen, can you see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want me to press share my screen or just...
Nope, this works.
Or is this fine?
Yeah.
We
Is
can
it fine?
see it.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. Okay, so just as a reminder, I'm going to show you either a movie poster or a DiGiorno's pizza ad.
Okay.
Your job is to guess which it is. And bonus points if you guess the right movie or the right type of pizza.
Okay.
And we'll do scoring based off of whoever answers first, I guess. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. First up is this image right here.
Bryce.
Sydney.
Okay, Bryce, let's hear it.
That is Nightmare on Elm Street.
That is correct. Sydney, you got to be faster than that.
I said
That
I
is-
tried.
Yeah.
Well, you were too slow. That is A Nightmare on Elm Street. All right, Sydney, your time to step it up here. You ready? The next one is this image.
Sydney.
Okay, Sydney, what is this?
This is Child's Play.
Are you sure
Bryce.
it's not DiGiorno's?
Bryce, no,
what's up?
I'm sure it's not a pizza. It's Child's Play 2.
It's
I don't know.
You did the big pixelated 2 give it away? It is Child's Play 2. All right.
I thought he
1
was
point
gonna
for
steal
Sydney,
that
1 point for Bryce.
Fuck you, Bryce.
Okay. Number 3. What is this?
Bryce.
Bryce, what's up?
This is DiGiorno pizza.
It is a DiGiorno pizza. What kind?
It's a pepperoni stuffed crust DiGiorno pizza.
It is a pepperoni stuffed crust. That's 2 points for Bryce. So Bryce is at 3 points. Sydney's at 1.
Okay.
Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. No, I did the scoring wrong. Because you both guessed the right movie. So Bryce got 2 points for Nightmare on Elm Street. Sydney got 2 points for Child's Play 2. Now Bryce has another 2 points for getting the correct
four
DiGiorno
versus
pizza.
2.
4 to
Okay.
2.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. What is this?
Sydney.
Shit.
Sydney.
This is the DiGiorno. Is this the French bread one?
Bryce.
Bryce, what's up?
This is DiGiorno pepperoni garlic bread crust.
Point goes to Bryce.
Are you fucking serious?
It is the garlic bread pepperoni.
These aren't that pixelated. This is not. I honestly was going to say California crust, but once you said
did.
I know. Sorry.
Do I still get a
Okay,
point?
Bryce is at 6, Sydney's at 2.
Oh. Okay.
Get good.
Next up.
Sydney.
Shit.
Sydney.
This is obviously a pizza. I would say it's peppers and onion.
Are you sure this is obviously pizza?
Bryce. This is Suspiria 2018.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give 1 point to Sydney because this is a hand-tossed DiGiorno's Supreme.
Okay, it's Supreme. Okay. So I was
Supreme,
a little
okay.
close.
So
I've
6 to
never
3.
had DiGiorno before, guys. This is...
Okay,
Are you
next up
sure you
we
didn't have delivery and you didn't realize it was DiGiorno?
You might be right.
All right, next up.
Shit.
Sydney.
Bryce. It's a horror movie.
Okay.
It is Pumpkinhead 2 Blu-ray cover.
It's not Pumpkinhead 2. Sydney, do you have something to say?
Is this Suspiria? Is this the DVD for Suspiria?
It is not.
No. Okay. Is it Carrie?
I will give Bryce 1 point because he guessed it was a horror movie first. This is Trick or Treat.
I've never
7
seen
to
the
3.
DVD cover. I love this movie though.
This is
Have you
actually the
done this
Blu-ray
movie?
collector's edition.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool.
So, I would have given you 3 points if you guessed it was a Blu-ray, I guess.
Didn't I say Blu-ray?
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Oh.
What's this?
Anyways, Bryce. This is neither. This is not a horror movie. We'll say it's a horror movie. I'm guessing Twilight. It's something in the Twilight franchise.
Ding, ding.
Okay.
The 2-disc special edition of Twilight.
Okay.
It's technically a horror movie, and we should review it.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's just leaving Peacock, unfortunately. So
Oh, really?
I'll have to wait for the next round.
No.
Was that it?
That's it. That was Horror or DiGiorno. Bryce, you killed it. Sydney, you did okay.
I know.
Bryce was just better at knowing what. Bryce was better at knowing what the pizza was.
I know. That was
I don't know if you know this about me. I am very fat, so it's kind of a competitive advantage when it comes to DiGiorno pizza boxes.
That was a really good
All right,
twist on horror.
That
porno.
was Horror or DiGiorno. I'm sure no one was disappointed in the way I mixed that up a little bit. Guys, this episode was produced by me and edited by me. We want to thank our new patrons. Does anyone have that pulled up? I think we had two.
I'm pulling it in just a second.
Yep, I actually...
Thank you so much to our lovely patrons. Kristen G. Jesus Christ. Kristen G. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Natalie K. Succulent Melons joined. And Derek J. So thank you so much for joining us. You know, even if you join as a free member, why not? You'll be able to be connected.
That is great.
Yeah,
all right.
Thanks, guys.
We love you guys. Thank you so much. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Good day, sir. Good day, sir. You lose. You get nothing.
Is that a raincoat? Yes, it is.
I just took a stroll through the scraggly woods.
He had no face.
Horror. Wow, that didn't sound good.